You know the answer to the trivia.
I do.
And you're giving away something a little bit different tonight. We'll talk about that once we get on the air.
Okay.
And other than that, you look especially radiant on camera.
Okay.
What about Gino? Is he in the mood since he got groomed, or is he coming out tonight, you think?
I don't know if he's spent.
He's spent from the grooming?
Yeah. You know,
These are the only two dogs I know that have to they nap all day after they get groomed.
Yeah, it's dramatic. They have PTSD.
Post grooming.
Yeah.
Post grooming stress disorder.
Yeah.
All right. I'm going we got a couple seconds yet. Oh, now we don't. Now I have to actually begin the show.
Okay.
All right, Suze.
All right.
I'm Jerry Maddox.
And I'm Ryder Maddox in sunny California.
And you're watching Vintage Motocross Q&A, hosted by Joe Abbate.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Joe Abbate. Welcome to Vintage Motocross Q&A. It's a pleasure to be here with you live again this week. As always, Susie is here with me. Susie, how's everything going over there?
Good, good.
Yeah?
Yeah.
I think you've got some things you want to give away this week that are a little bit different. What do you got going on there?
Oh, I got a nice VMXQ&A hat.
VMXQ&A hat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Look how nice that is.
What else?
And I have that's for what's it worth? And I have a mag light for view appreciation.
Yeah.
And a trivia.
Oh, we got a good trivia tonight. We'll give a poster
so
away.
that's a poster.
We'll give a poster away again. All right. So we got some cool stuff going on there. As always, I want to thank our sponsors of the show. They help make the show possible. Racer X, the International Motocross Museum, Motion Pro, Bultaco East, Preston Petty Products, Full Circle Racing, and Amsoil. If you want to become a sponsor of the show, now's the time. The prices have never been lower. They're never going to be lower than this. $250 a month. That's $250 a month. Full confirmation today. Arma is now on board as a sponsor. You'll expect to see, or you can expect to see, some things from Arma starting next week. And I'll tell you why I'm really excited about this. You know, on this show, I bring you some history about motocross. Thanks to Roy Vanderveer, Roger Neth, Jerry Maddox, and a couple other guys. We bring you some do-it-yourself things, some restoration tips and things like that. I also, of course, have my own restoration tips. We've got bikes coming in from the guys who send in Moto Showcase bikes, and of course, the What's It Worth segment. Arma is going to bring a nice facet to this show because we're going to have somebody in the field at all the Arma events bringing us race coverage.
That's awesome.
You can't ask for more than that. There's no show that does that. Okay. So that's what I'm really, really excited about at this time. The set looks great. You keep sharing the show, whether you're on Facebook or you're on YouTube. Invite your friends, share it in some groups, and let's keep the show going. Let's keep it growing as well. All right. First thing I want to bring you up tonight it's still kind of the next time try this segment, even though that Vinco is no longer with us. But Roy sent us in a really great little video, and it's about when you have pitting on steel parts. Gave us a really good tip. Let's see what Roy has to say about this. Hey, Roy.
Hello everybody, I'm Roy Vanderveer, and what I've got in front of me today are a couple of linkage struts for a 81 RM125. This bike had a lot of really bad corrosion damage, and these are some of the last parts that I have to get ready to get this bike together. I had a donor for the right side. but I did not have any for the left side. So I'm gonna have to do some work on this one to fill in all this pitting. So hopefully we can get a nice smooth finish like we have on this one. And the way I do that, when there's minor corrosion damage like this, it can be on a frame or a bracket or anything, is just some Bondo glazing compound. And as simple as can be, the way it works is you get the part very clean, put some glazing compound on your finger, and fill in all the holes. And I'm going to work on this off camera for a little bit, and then we'll stop back after I've gone through maybe one or two of the sanding processes to get all these little holes filled in, and we'll see how we do. Okay, and I'm back after some time sanding and allowing this spotting putty to dry. I got all the holes filled in, and we're off to the paint shop next. All I'm using is some Rust-Oleum Crystal Clear and some Duplicolor Gloss Black. And just to take another look back, this is the look we're trying to avoid, and this is the look that we're shooting for. So off to the paint shop, and then we'll be back at you. Okay, and we're back after a couple of days with our linkage control arms here, or struts, for our 81 RM125. Again, started out with stuff that looked like this with really heavy corrosion damage. I did have one donor strut that I could use that was in good shape, and we got a really nice result with that painted. But then I removed the paint from the left side strut, filled it with glazing putty, did my sanding, just some gloss black paint, 2 coats of that, 2 coats of clear, and we've got a strut that is more than good enough to be installed. This is actually something that had been holding me up for a little while, because there was no way I'm going to put something that looks like this on a restoration. So this is a handy little trick. The glazing putty is really inexpensive. It dries very fast. It's very easy to work with. You do the sanding, get your prep work done. You do the paint. We all know how to do the paint. And there you can take a badly pitted part and put it back into serviceable condition, so you won't be embarrassed when people see your bike. So you might wonder, geez, Roy, how did you learn how to do all this? It's easy. When I was working with Rick Simon in his antique shop, we did stuff like this all the time. People would bring in valuable antiques that needed to be touched up or tweaked or repaired, and we would use glue or putty or gum or whatever was needed in order to get these parts restored back to like new condition, or at least restored back to fully acceptable condition. And if you want to do the same, all you have to do is grab yourself a copy of the book Monkey Butt. This is mandatory reading for anybody who rides a dirt bike. So if you want to learn all about the antique repair shop and how to make the pitted parts on your rusted out dirt bike look like champ, it's all in the book. So grab a copy, check it out. When you're done reading that book, make sure to pick up a copy of his book, The Last Ride. And now I'm ready to get the suspension back together on this bike. Till next time.
Roy Vanderveer with some really interesting information about filling in some of those low-level pits that you have on steel parts. Thank you, Roy, so much for all you do for us here at Vintage Motocross Q&A. The Moto Showcase is up next, and the Moto Showcase is brought to you by Preston Petty Products. Be sure to visit them online at PrestonPettyProducts.com. Here's something you don't see every day, and you won't see every day here on Vintage Motocross Q&A. Brett Lucas, Chris Lucas, the Lucas Family Collection, big supporters of our show for all the years we've been at it now. They've come up with this. It was a kit, and I got a cute little story about, well, it's not a cute story, but it's a story about the gas tank that I'll tell you a little bit after we get done with this segment. Chris writes to us, Supercycle. Any of the bikes that I build or collect need to be unusual or one-off. I think I have covered it with this one. This is the Snow King Supercycle three-wheeler conversion on a 1973 Husqvarna CR450. The concept with the kit was you will never have to put your bike away. You can ride it in the sand, you can ride it in the snow, and it easily converts back to two wheels if you want to do that. All the time, the kit was $341. Imagine that. And for just $39 more, you were able to get a ski for the front of it as well. The kit was a bolt-on deal to fit most bikes. When I found this bike in boxes, it came with an original sales brochure. I found the Cycle World test from June 1975 and a copy of the patent that helped me with this build. The engine was built by Woody at Action Cycle in Tacoma with a new rod, piston, bearing seals, vape ignition, D&H Reed, with a lot of porting and a big piston in the cylinder. Tom at Full Circle Racing helped us with the powder coating and the rebuilding of the hub and front wheel, and of course, including the spokes. The frame has the vintage Husky modifications done on it. And what else has he got to say about that? Oh, the kit came with longer foot pegs that work better than the stock ones. The tank has a large high point supplied by Joe, tank banger to the stars, and paint by Blake Conway of Southern California. There you have it. I did use titanium bolts on the rear motor mounts and the sprocket and the rear hub. In the Cycle World test, they said that the mechanical rear disc brake and stock brake rod setup did not stop the bike very well, so it came up with this hydraulic setup, and it works extremely well. I did upgrade the rear rim to an aluminum and went with round type rear tires, round type OE rear tires, all the new controls and more. I've been asked if I would like to ride it. No, I went through the three-wheeler craze in the 1980s and I made it out alive. So no way will I test my luck on this. The bike is now. Also, I'm going to take the bike to Mecum in January. So looks like Lucas will have this bike for sale. Chris and or Brett Lucas will have this bike for sale at the Mecum motorcycle auction in January. Quick story on the tank. There it is. I did straighten this tank out, but where'd the tank come from? Quick story. 2 years ago, exactly right now, I was in Australia with Susie. We got invited down to, I forget what it's called, days of, what is it called, Susie? Vintage Days? I can't remember. Ken Smith of VMX had this tank for sale. He gave it to me at like a crazy price, like $50. Now I got to get the tank home. I'm going to mail it to myself. That's like a couple of $100, takes all the fun out of it. I go and put it in my suitcase. The suitcase, of course, is not big enough with the amount of clothes I had taken. So I went out, bought a bigger suitcase, put the tank in the suitcase, got it home, started to refinish it. And just when I got it done, I didn't know who was going to buy it or what they were going to do with it. But here it is on this bike. It took all the dents out. It came out really, really nicely. And there it is. All right.
There it is.
And that bike will be for sale in January at the Mecum motorcycle auction. Okay, let's get a quick word in from our sponsor, Preston Petty Products. We'll be right back with more Vintage Motocross Q&A. God said, let there be light, and there was light. Preston Petty said, let there be light, and he gave you this, 1,200 lumens with a rechargeable battery on the back. Hook it up to your bike. No wires, no fuss, no muss. Get over to PrestonPettyProducts.com today. Thanks, Paul Stannard. Another supporter of our show is, of course, Bultaco East. We'll be hearing more from Bultaco East in the very near future. We'll have some specials going again. I did send a message to Steve Grandis today, and I'm just expecting to hear from him just about any minute. Steve Grandis, thank you for your support last year from Bultaco East. And I do need some parts coming up for a boat tail that I'm working on. So I'll be talking to you real soon about that. Okay? What do we got now? There's nothing more I love more than giving stuff away. Trivia is going to be a lot of fun tonight. Trivia is really, really made possible by Mike McCook and Motorcyclist Illustrated. Be sure to visit them on their Facebook page at Motorcyclist Illustrated. Or Mike got the old McCook Racing page that is still up there somewhere in the World Wide Web land. This is, of course, a call-in only trivia contest. Here's the phone number, 925-784-2195. That's 925-784-2195. Beautiful operators are standing by as we speak. What are you playing for? 18 by 24 poster of Tony DeStefano and Jim and Jimmy Winter. All right. So here comes the question. Listen to me carefully now. The Trans Am Series 1974. A manufacturer drops out of the series due to frames breaking on their bikes. A racer for that manufacturer had frames built. He raced the last Trans Am and he won. Name the rider and the manufacturer. All right. 1974. A factory frame is breaking at an alarming rate. The guy's doing pretty well in the Trans AMA series, but the manufacturer drops out. The guy says, I'm going to go have some frames made. He does it, comes back, and wins the last Trans Am. Who is that? Can you tell me? We'll be right back. You can call in right now at area code 925-234-8181. AMS Racing. Dave Boydson gives us so many wonderful videos. You got to follow Dave on Facebook, on his personal page. And of course, if you need parts, Dave has been a supplier and a promoter of races for decades, not just years. So be sure to follow Dave Boydson on Facebook. And this is a little segment we like to call Dave's Corner. Dave sends us in some pretty cool videos from time to time, and things he has in his shop, things he sees out on the road. Sometimes he'll come in with stuff from, I don't know, he even comes in with some really cool stuff from some swap meets that he goes to and stuff like that. So let's see what we got from Dave this week. I got him down here in the video section, I think. Do we? No, I don't. All right. You just hang tight for 1 second. I am going to give you, I'll give you something from Dave Boydson in just a second. I'm sorry I didn't have it queued up in time, but we'll get it right here for you in just a second. Dave just sent me a bunch of other videos today, and yeah, we'll have them on in some future episodes, okay? But right now, what we got from Dave for today? He saw something here. All right, you know what? We're just going to run with this right now, and we'll be back with another Dave Boydson video.
Well, with bull tacos, you know, usually the color tells you the size of the bike. And when I saw this, I said, boy, this really looks cool. I don't know what size it is and everything, but then I found out it was kind of custom built for a girl mountain biker to get involved in. The bike was called the Pink Taco. It's like a Frontera bottom end, 135 frame, vintage legal, and it allows it to shift on the left-hand side. And he's moving back east and no longer going to race, and I ended up wanting to, I said I always wanted that if it was ever for sale. So here it is, Michelin tires it looks like on it, and progressive shocks. Like I said, left-hand shift and a really cool paint job. It's a little worn, but the bike was at the track for a few years. It's got an ignition on it, Jim Pomeroy replica Proform pipe, big fat belly one, Mikuni carburetor, matching set of Michelin tires. New seat foam and cover when they built it, and the correct fenders from that period. A real good looking taco here. So this one is 1975 bike, ARMA legal. So that means it's allowed to shift on the left side. Great for age group or 250cc class. The Pink Taco.
All right, Dave Boydson. I want to thank Dave for sending in some really cool stuff to us all the time. And Susie says we do not have an answer for the trivia contest just yet. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to read it again. This way you guys will think about it for a second. It's a Trans Am Series 1974. Maybe I'll give you a little hint too. A manufacturer, one of the big manufacturers, drops out of the series due to frames breaking. A racer for that manufacturer went out and had a frame built. He raced it at the last Trans AMA and he won. Name the rider, name the manufacturer. I will tell you this, and it's going to probably be a pretty big hint. He was a national champion the year before. I think. No, I don't think. He was a national champion the year before, and it was kind of a, well, he wasn't from this nation. That's why it wasn't such, didn't go over so well that he was a national champion. All right, so you think about that for a second. Motion Pro. is the next segment. Here's the problem. Take 20% off Motion Pro products across the board. Use code MP9135. That's MP9135. One of the first things we have here is from, it was a question that came to me, but it was on the Husqvarna Motorcycle Restorers page too. I need a quick solution to avoid the risk of brake snagging on the triple. This is a new cable and has already snagged once. Now, this question came up again, really from the same guy, from Mark Warren, okay? And he said he followed my next time try this segment, and he's using this bicycle spoke, and it worked like a dream. Let's get over to that video. I will show it to you, and you'll see exactly what Mark Warren did and how he got his cable guide problem all straightened out, okay? Well, you got an answer for me, Suze?
Yeah, I do.
All right, we're going to run this thing, and then we'll be right back with trivia, and we'll give you the answer on that, okay? Here we go.
What is it?
Tonight, I want to talk to you about how to make a front brake cable guide. It's just a simple solution, and I'm going to show you how to do it. It's going to look like this when you're done. It's going to be really great how the cable stays aligned in your bike. Here's what you're going to need. You're going to need a spoke, just like this. Now, I would recommend you use a bicycle spoke. I'm using motorcycle spokes for this demonstration. They're a little on the thick side. A bicycle spoke would be better. Where you're going to begin is you're going to cut off the threaded end, and you're going to mark it 5 inches up, and you're going to cut off this end too. What you're going to have after you do that is a rod that looks just like this. Previously your spoke, it's going to look just like this though. The next thing you want to do is bend that into a horseshoe shape like this. There's a couple of ways to do that. You could put it around any object that's on your vise, maybe the handle, or you could take a bolt like this, attach it to your vise, clamp it down, and put it in there and bend it around it. The purpose of that is because you want a nice radius to go around there. So when your cable goes through there, you don't want it to pinch. The next thing you're going to do is put this piece in the vise, and I'm going to show you how to bend that. You want to have a couple of nice sharp edges on the top of the vise. You can do that with a soft jaw, or you can do what I did here and just cut 2 pieces of angle aluminum where the edges are nice and sharp. The important thing is that you keep it in there nice and straight. Clamp down on your vise gently with a hammer. You're going to tap down just like that. Take it out of the vise. And then you got the shape I showed you that was on the fork. Now you can cut these a little bit shorter to whatever dimension you like, depending on the clamp you have, or maybe you want them a little bit longer.
Okay,
Don't
yeah,
forget,
no problem.
you might want to file the ends. They might be a little sharp after you cut them. Well, that's our tip this week on the next time try this segment. You could connect it right to your lower fork leg like that. Use a nice thin clamp. Don't use a hose clamp. It'll turn out looking like a plumbing project when you're done. Then, in the end, you have a cable guide just like that. Going to hold your cable in place, keep it out of your spokes, and protect the casing and everything else that goes along with that cable. All right, we are back live, and we do have an answer to the trivia question. First of all, let's find out who we have on the phone. This is Joe Abbate. You're live on the air. Who am I speaking to?
Hey, Joe, it's Mike Sarkis. How you doing this
I'm
evening?
doing it right, Mike Sarkis. In the Trans Am series in 1974, a manufacturer dropped out of the series due to the frames breaking. A racer had his own frames built. He raced the last Trans Am, and he won. Who might that person be, and what manufacturer was it?
It was Pierre Cars Makers, and I believe it was a Profab frame he had made.
Yeah, you are absolutely correct.
He was on the Yamaha.
Yep, it was Pierre Cosmakers. Here's a picture of him right here, and alongside the late Jim Pomeroy. And I do have a little write-up on this, and I just really discovered, not that I knew some things about it, but I didn't know everything about it. So let's just see what Terry Good had to say here. Pierre Cosmakers on his way to winning the final Trans Am race in 74 at Saddleback after a series of Yamaha OW frames breaking and Yamaha pulling out of the Trans Am series. Pierre commissioned Pro Fab to make that frame that would last for his works Yamaha. The frame was finished just days before Saddleback, and Pierre won the last event. Later, after sitting around the race shop, the bike was fitted with a 250 OW12 engine and became the first factory Yamaha that Bob Hanna was issued when he signed in late 1975. This very bike is now in the International Motocross Museum collection. Mike Sarkis, Sue's got your address. We're going to get you a nice gift, compliments of Vintage Motocross Q&A. I want to thank you for playing.
Alrighty. Thank you, Joe. Keep up the good work with the IMM with Terry.
I will. Thank you, Mike.
Alrighty,
Here you
have a
go,
good
Suze.
night.
And yeah, there's the bike right there. And don't hold me to this, but I think this could be one of the first factory bikes that Terry Good purchased for the IMM. I think it was, unless I'm mistaken, but I'm almost positive it was. I know it was a Bob Hanna bike, and it was a Yamaha. It was his first bike. Before he started to think about collecting or anything else, he was a carpenter out in California, saw a bike laying alongside a garage of a friend of his, and he bought the bike. But yeah, there it is with the Profab frame. Really, really great story. All right. So we kind of wrapped up with the video from Mark Warren. That all went really well. What do we got coming up next? Alan Huie. Hey, Joe, question for you experts. Well, I don't know if I'm an expert, but I'm going to answer it. On vintage bike chain, do you recommend white lithium grease over standard chain lubes? Well, I'm going to tell you something, Alan. I really don't, and I'm going to tell you why. White lithium grease is really good on parts that move slowly. The hinges on your house, maybe some gears on a bicycle. It would be good there. Maybe the door hinge on your car. But I would not recommend it on a motorcycle because I think it's going to fly off and it's going to fling. Well, it's going to fling all over the bike, but it's going to not stay on the chain as it gets hot. It just does not have the consistency or the viscosity to stay on that chain once it gets hot, and it's not going to give you a whole lot of protection for your sprockets and your chain. I would use a quality chain lube. Yes, I'm going to recommend AMSOIL. They are a sponsor of the show, but they make a great product too. AMSOIL chain lube. It's going to stick to your chain. It's good on O-ring chains as well as non-O-ring chains as well. So yeah, on slower moving parts on your bicycle, Alan, or something like that, yeah, white lithium grease is good. But on something that's going to start running a little bit hotter, where the viscosity could break down from the heat and the friction, I would use a real a lube that was manufactured for that purpose specifically. Thank you, Russell Waters and AMSOIL for sending us some great gifts: the mag lights, the 10mm socket sets, the koozies, and so much other really, really great stuff. Thank you, Russell Waters and AMSOIL. We got another segment for you coming up right now, a video segment. This one's a little bit long, okay? We're not going to run the whole thing. It is Ted Boyko in the expansion chamber segment. This is a big hit every week. Everybody loves Ted, and he's got some great information as well. So the video that we did in the past couple of weeks, well, it was a little lengthy. There were some really, really good parts to it, but I can't let it run the whole show. So we're going to let it run its course here for a while, and then when I think there's a reasonably good spot for a break, we'll take a break from Ted's video, and then we'll add it to the Vintage Motocross Q&A page tomorrow, and you can watch it. Ted Boyko joins me again this week for another edition of the Expansion Chamber. Ted, thanks for coming back.
Thank you for having me back.
It was my pleasure. You know, the last couple of weeks we covered some things about porting and boring and bridges and things like that. Now, I'm going to talk about, or I want to ask you about, something that I personally don't know a lot about. And I just never researched it. I never did it. I've taken engines apart and put them together and have seen it. But why do some manufacturers and people who are tuners like yourself put a window in the back of a piston like this?
A lot of them think that they're getting fuel to the spark plug quicker. You know, that's a lot.
How so? How so? How does the fuel get to the spark plug quicker with a hole in there?
But my theory is I don't run a bunch of holes in my pistons because I want a bunch of piston support to support that. Now that's for a reed valve motor right there. This
one is.
Yes. So those are put in there for a reason. And if you don't have those in there, the thing ain't going to run. It won't even run. So those are there for a reed valve motor. If you don't have a reed valve motor, you're not going to put holes there like that. If you were going to put a hole, you know, on a non-reed motor, it would be a slot below the ringland, below the second ring.
On a piston port engine.
Yeah, Mitch at Pro Circuit always did it on his two strokes with a little horizontal slot that he would mill in there a 1/4-inch hole. And basically with that, his whole theory there is and he would put a small hole there so it would still have some piston support and not take away and still trying to get fuel to spark plug quicker. Because when the piston comes down, whatever fuel's in the case, he's hoping it's going to pull some up and help push some more fuel up to the spark plug quicker. So I personally don't put a bunch of holes in there on any of my motors for a couple of reasons, because I want these guys' motors to last and keep as much piston support in there as possible, because, you know, piston clearances are important. You know, plated cylinders, like that right there. I would never cut a hole above that. Look at the hole he's going to poke in there.
Yeah.
That piston there is going to have no life. If you look at the wing on the bottom, he slotted the crap out of the bottom of the piston there.
Yeah.
And then those 2 wings is all you have on the upstroke. So what happens on the upstroke, the piston actually tilts a little bit towards the exhaust and it's going to apply pressure to those rear wings. Does that make sense?
Yes, of course it does.
And what it's going to do after a bunch of time, it's those are going to have, they'll end up with a crack and then end up breaking off and causing catastrophic engine problems. Guaranteed.
Now,
and
Ken, I've also seen it to where they cut those legs right off, or they cut the bottom of the skirt right off. And I mean, that's really got to put the piston in.
Then it's going up like this and jamming into the exhaust bridge even more because there's no rear skirt. So you wonder why these exhaust bridges wear like they do, because guys are doing stuff like that. And honestly, you want as much piston support. These things are turning a lot of R's, and especially the 125s, 250s, they all spin a lot of R's, and those pistons take a lot of wear. I chamfer the piston. I'm really picky and anal with my motors that go out. I literally take the pistons that come from Prox, Geisner, and what have you, because they don't chamfer them exactly the way I do. And
where do you chamfer them, Ted? Where do you chamfer them?
I learned a lot of this stuff from Harry, believe it or not. Chamfering these pistons were about on the bottoms of the skirts of these pistons, certain areas where they would, so they wouldn't deburr them very good from factory, any of the brands. So I come back through with a 120 grit and literally chamfer all the way around the piston skirts, because one thing I learned from Harry is about the engine's going to turn more R's with less friction. And if you have these pistons, and if you ever look at my cylinders, I actually chamfer the entire port for a couple of reasons, because that was something that we learned working at DG with Harry. Up and down stroke, you want less friction. You want the thing to turn as many R's as possible. So in order to do that, you need to chamfer all those areas. And also, you're going to get more life out of the pistons and the rings. You know, rings wear out pretty freaking quick. And if you don't do all these extra things that I do, your rings are going to wear out instantly. You're not going to get the life out of the motor. For instance, if a lot of shops will pop in a sleeve or replate it or do whatever they're doing. When my cylinders come back from replating, I touch them up. I don't just take them. I check the clearances again, because sometimes they come to the shop. Cold weather versus hot weather, you put your bore gauge in there, there'll be a thou difference from the East Coast to the West Coast, because it just when they did their tolerances in Wisconsin that day, comes over here and I'll put the bore gauge in it and the thing's too tight. So I'll need to go in there and take some out of the thing, either from Power Seal or whoever it may be, Millennium or US Chrome. They all do the same stuff. You need to, and I send a piston with my cylinders so these things come back right. And then I take the rings and put the rings in there and check the end gap on every motor that goes out of here. Those are the things that are super important. single ring pistons are on the majority of the two strokes are coming out today on the smaller bores. You're talking Huskies, KTMs, Yamahas. They all have a single ring piston. The first thing I do with my engines on any motor goes out is I toss the single ring. The single ring has no life. And on these 125 new Yamahas, for instance, I've had those bridges, they're plated cylinders, and on the upstroke, it'll literally wear a chamfer mark, and then the plating will crack on a brand new Yamaha. If you toss in a double ring piston in these 125s, these things literally will go the entire season in a desert race. I mean, I started putting double ring pistons in 125s freaking 20 years ago.
Yeah.
And I did it started doing with the guys that were doing District 37 desert races. And I had a young kid who was really talented, he wanted to ride his 125. He got no life out of it. And he was throwing piston and rings in every 3 races. And, you got all these races in desert, and you don't want to keep pulling the top end apart. And so I finally made, when I first did it, you have to make 10 pistons at a time to get a double ring made. And so I was supplying all these 125 guys with double ring pistons, and they could go the whole season at District 37 desert races without taking the top end off. And before they were, putting rings and pistons in it every 3 races. So the double ring doesn't take away from any of the R's. It might, if it's going to spin, it's spinning just as many R's with the double ring. The key with the double ring is you're getting the life.
Reliability. You can't argue with the reliability. All right. That segment with Ted Boyko goes on for about a half hour. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to post it on the page. You'll be able to watch the whole thing in its entirety, which is what the whole thing actually means. And we'll get on with the show from there. Right now, I want to hear from the International Motocross Museum. We'll be right back after that with more Vintage Motocross Q&A.
Motocross struck America, coming from Europe like a lightning bolt, striking the hearts and minds of people all across the country and the world. Battles of intense racing and cutting rivalries with loyalty to brands and heroes intensified as years of blood, sweat, and dirt flew through the minds of those memories of champions as they wrestled their machines through almost impossible tracks. But where are those past champions? And where are their bikes? Terry Good, an ex-pro motocross racer, has made it his life mission to honor these heroes and the bikes they rode to stardom. We raced, we rode, we lived and breathed motocross. Go back in time and relive those moments, now preserved for the first time ever in the world's first museum dedicated to the history of motocross. Our new building is in the gate. Help us get a great start and you can be part of history. Go to internationalmotocrossmuseum.org and become a part of our team.
The International Motocross Museum is a not-for-profit 501c3 organization. Be sure to visit them online at internationalmotocrossmuseum.org or visit their Facebook page. You know what else is really cool? The International Motocross Museum now has a YouTube channel. A lot of good videos over there. Catch them online and on YouTube. Really, really cool stuff over there. What's the Word segment is brought to you by Full Circle Racing. Is this where we're giving away stickers tonight on this or not? Giving away stickers, or are you giving away a hat?
I'm giving away a hat.
We're giving away a hat tonight.
I'm giving away a hat.
Yeah. All right?
Yeah.
This is the part of the show where I ask you, the viewers at home, to guess how much you think this bike recently sold for. Mm-hmm. And it is a 1974 Honda CR 250. And what really got my eye about this bike was, of course, the tank when I started to look at it, okay? And the bike appeared to be very, very original. And the more I looked at it, well, the more it looked original, including the tires, right down to the tires. So let's just take a quick look here. It was at Mecum, And it was from the Miller Collection in Texas, 250cc, 5-speed, original exhaust, which was in great shape. Original decals, got the original Dunlop Sport tires on it, and the did wheels. Engine is in original condition, key and carburetor. It's got a new updated petcock, and somewhere along the line, they said that they lost the seat when they were cleaning it or shipping it, and that the seat had to be replaced. Anyway, look at the witness marks on this bike. Those are those little yellow paint marks that you see there. All the springs are in place, and the hardware does have a nice patina. You could obviously tell that it has not been restored at all. That is the right tire on the front. They are the correct spokes. And if you look closely here, once again, you can see that the hubs, the hardware, the silver paint finish on the shocks, everything looks the way it exactly should and the way it would if it were an original bike. I can also see where this bike was definitely stored inside for the majority of its life. I don't see any serious oxidation. I don't know about the originality of this ignition cover because I'm seeing a little glue around the edge right there, but it does look like the original ignition cover. Maybe they took it off. Maybe they took it off to adjust the points, clean them out. Maybe there was a little water in there. Who knows? But it does look like a nice piece to me. A good shot right here. Kickstand is still in place, and it's got the sticker still here on the back fender, a little worn. You can see how new the seat is, or the logo on that seat. They did, of course, mention that it was replaced. There's another good 3/4 shot of the side. And I liked everything about this bike. It is original. The front number plate. Some things may be slightly questionable. I don't know. Like maybe those side panels. They look like they're in incredibly nice condition. But look, it's got the original tires on it. That's for sure. And the pipe does show some little signs of dents on the bottom. I like the way the hardware looks. Nothing was replaced on that. So you, the viewers at home, have a chance to win one of the most sought-after items in motocross, the ever-elusive Vintage Motocross Q&A hat. They're not elusive. I've got dozens of them sitting here. But anyway, you're going to win one if you could tell me how much you think this bike recently sold for. I have one for sale for $14,000. I still have that bike for sale for $14,000. So what do you think this bike went for? $7,000? $8,000? $10,000? An original bike, a Survivor. This bike sold for a pittance, $7,150 at Meekham's on July 12th.
Wow.
That's including the buyer's fee of 10%.
Wow.
This bike went for like what? $6,400, $6,500?
Wow.
I hate to admit it, guys, but the vintage market is kind of in the toilet at this point.
Nobody got it.
Nobody got it?
Mm-mm.
Well, then I'm not giving away a hat.
Yeah.
$6,500 plus the premium, $7,100. And this bike, in my opinion, what?
Well, Bill Harper said $6,500. But you said there.
Well, you know what? The 10% buyer premium, so 65 and 10 will be $650. That does put them up there at $7,100.
All right. So then it's.
Who is it? Bill who?
Bill Harper.
Bill Harper.
Yeah.
Message me your address. I will gladly send you a hat. And if anybody wants to buy a hat, Susie, how much you sell those hats for? $18?
15.
$15 if you want to buy a hat. Okay? But there it is, $7,100. I just can't really believe how cheap that bike actually went for. You know what? We're going to take a little commercial break. We're going to hear from our dear friend, Jerry.
I'm Heikki Mikkola. We will be right back.
That was perfect, Heikki. I get asked often, what's the most important thing on Clunker? Answer simple, it's me. That's why I use Full Circle Racing wheels prepped by Tom McAllister. So should you. Watch this and learn why. When racing vintage motocross where suspension is very limited, your wheels can be the difference between winning or serious injury. We chose to run Full Circle Racing wheels because of the super high quality materials and the heavy duty spokes used. Prepped by Tom McAllister, I have the confidence on the track to push way harder through the rough stuff and the bigger jumps, knowing my wheels are going to stay under me. Hey, Clunker may be 50 years old, but his wheels are brand new, and yours should be too. Call Tom McAllister at Full Circle Racing today.
Hi, I'm Steve Simons. You're watching Vintage Motocross Q&A.
That's right, Steve Simons. You are watching Vintage Motocross Q&A. And next up on the queue is Jeff Kokoski with a follow-up in the Did You Know segment. A couple of weeks ago when we were on, before I did that great interview last week, we had a thing on about Scott boots. We've all seen them. Some of us probably even have worn them. But Jeff came up with a really good, some really good coverage on what was actually happening with Scott boots at that time and why they came up with this idea with these little booties and these plastic boots. Last week, we talked about how our budding skier and off-road racer Scott Boyer was intrigued by all plastic boot and started working for the Lange Scott ski boot company. But in the late 70s, was recruited by Scott USA, where his job was to bring an all-plastic motocross boot to market. This evening, we continue with our Did You Know segment on the story of how Scott boots came about. When Boyer started with Scott USA, he found that the prototype boots were functional, but not very comfortable. But they had to get them on the feet of some of the riders to get some constructive feedback and see just exactly where they were good and where they weren't so great. Enter Don McGee, husband of AMA Hall of Famer and female moto legend Mary McGee. Don was in charge of Scott's USA Moto division, which by the late 70s was immersed popularly with riders because of Scott goggles and the infamous Scott 889. Now, this is not McGee. This is, of course, Danny Laporte. But I just wanted to bring that to your attention. That's Scott Boyer back there in the picture. So anyway, they had already received some really good feedback through the pipeline from some of the riders, and they did want to try the boots out. And providing they liked them, they would give constructive feedback, or if there was anything that they didn't like about them, they would tell them about that too. Don was able to recruit Suzuki stars like Mark Blackwell, Danny Laporte, Garrett Walsink, and Rex Staten. Now, most riders recognize the comfort downsides of the boot, but were more interested in the added protection that the boots offered over their leather components. So, oh boy. After 2 years in development and 15 different configurations, I got these pictures a little sideways here, but that's okay. After 15 different configurations, Scott used the USA released the boots to the market in the late 79 and in the 80s, okay? Now, the boots featured a patented floating hinge design that duplicated the human ankle, but restricted it from bending too far in the event of a crash. This allowed for some forward, backward, and even lateral movement of the rider's ankle, which solved the biggest complaint about the boot, being too restrictive, much like a ski boot was. Now, they also developed a unique buckle system that was integral to the boot and did not protrude out like ski boots. The sole of the boot was made from a replaceable rubber compound with an integral hard plastic toe cap molded into it, thus eliminating the add-on metal toe cap screwed onto the leather boot. In an ingenious way to save production costs, they only used two shell sizes, one for shoe sizes 7, 8, and 9, and 10, and a larger shell for 10, 11, and 12, which is really interesting that the inside of this boot had these inserts. And you could see one, well, you could see one right here really clearly. You see it here on the left? Okay. And then we see them here again with this original packing. So in order to fit the rider's foot, they varied in thickness and the padding of the internal boot. Anyway, as for materials, the red parts of the Scott boots were polyurethane plastic. The blue was polypropylene. The waterproof lining was nylon. The booties were foam rubber. And the ankle pivots, rivets, and fastener loops were all made of stainless steel. Now, at about that time, a guy hit the circuit by the name of Bob Hurricane Hanna. Bob was sponsored by Carrera Goggles, but he was so impressed at the level of the service that Scott USA was providing for their riders and boots. So Hannah struck up a conversation with Scott Boyer, and they discussed ultimately going with this boot. Hannah had bad ankles, and that was no secret to some people, and he really needed some really good support. And the Scott boot looked like it was going to give him that added protection. Although at the time he was sponsored by High Point Boots, he was really looking more for safety. And Hannah being Hannah, he wasn't too concerned about either breaking a contract or doing whatever he had to do in order to win a race as safely as possible. Hannah did talk to High Point owner John Penton, and he did get permission by Penton to use the boots. Now, Hannah, do-or-die trying riding style, along with his no-holds-barred commentaries, made him immensely popular with the blue-collar motocross workers, as we've learned in the past. Here he is, of course, lined up with some of his competition and some of his arch nemesis, I guess you could call Marty Smith, or each one of these guys gave Hannah a run for his money throughout his career. Anyway, at the time, Hannah's red plastic Scott boots were standout among the crowd wearing the leather boots. So there you have it. And actually, we got a couple of more things happening here that I really do want to cover that Jeff included. So anyway, let's get back to that. They actually were a marvel of engineering. They used no leather. They were retailing for almost $200 at the time, which was about $800 today. So USA, or Scott USA, recognized that it was going to take a rider some time to adjust to the feel of the new boots. So they included even an owner's manual in the boot, which was something really unheard of at the time. The boots were heavier than the leather. They didn't breathe at all, and they scuffed up the side plates of the bike. They were generally well received by riders that basically couldn't afford them. Eventually, riders like Jeff Ward, Marty Tripes, Doug DeMocus, Johnny O'Mara, even Huskies Mike Gura, and the Wheelie King, Doug DeMocus, really loved the Scott boots. But the boots, they would fade almost as quickly as they came into production. And what brought them to their demise was most likely a combination of two things. First, by the 80s, other traditional leather boots and manufacturers recognized that protection that plastic offered, but they really wanted all leather boots, and they wanted them to maintain the feel and comfort of the traditional leather boot. So they began to integrate the plastic into components of the leather boot for more protection and give the riders a little bit more of a natural look, the look that they were all really accustomed to. AXO was one of the first to do this with their combination of leather and plastic boots that graced the feet of Honda star Andre Malher, also a three-time world champion. But that really did it for the Scott boots. And oddly, they went back to their snow days. Is what they did. Bob Smith of Smith Goggle fame and Chuck Ferris, former president of K2 Skis, partnered to acquire Scott assets. Having no real interest in the crowded motocross boot market, the Smith-Ferris duo shut down the boot line, but kept open the goggle and face manufacturers. That we see some of it right here. As every motocross boot manufacturer now incorporates plastic hard parts into their leather boots offering, Scott USA, as well as Heckel of Switzerland, proved that plastic boots had their place in the motocross world, but it just didn't quite go as far as they thought. And that is really an interesting, very interesting bit of information from Jeff Kokoski, once again, about Scott and their interest in the boot business and really cool stuff like that. We're going to take a little commercial break. We're going to hear from Motion Pro. We'll be back in just a minute to wrap up our spot with the announcements and, of course, this week in motocross history. And Susie's got viewer appreciation as well.
Yeah.
Let's get a look at this from Motion Pro. We'll be right back.
Hi, I'm Sean Gager. We're here with Altus Motorsports. I'm Kevin Almeida's mechanic, bike number 16. We wanted to kind of show off the Motion Pro wrenches and all kinds of different tools that Motion Pro makes. Getting the job done, saving time is crucial, especially, qualifying for trying to do a clutch change or anything like that. These speed wrenches are absolutely great to have. They make our lives absolutely way easier. Every single mechanic on the crew has many things in their toolbox, and we are very happy to have them on board.
All right, Suze,
Yeah.
You want to do your viewer appreciation prize?
Yeah, I don't know if this is a coincidence, but Bill Harper won the hat for What's It Worth.
Yeah.
Is he related to Rick Harper, who's the winner of?
No, two different Harpers, I think.
Oh, is it? Okay,
Yeah, and you know what? It doesn't matter. Bob Harper, Rick Harper.
it's Rick Harper.
Yeah. I wouldn't care if Linda Harper from what was that show, Rhoda? I wouldn't care if she won. I'd give her a hat. All right.
All right. So it's Rick Harper.
Rick Harper, get me your address, and we will get you a hat. Compliments of the lovely Susie and Vintage Motocross Q&A. Jeff Kokoski, thanks again.
Bill Harper.
For Bill Harper.
It's Bill Harper for the hat.
Bill Harper on the hat. Rick Harper on the.
Wait a minute.
All right, now Susie's getting a little confused.
No, it's Rick Harper.
On the what?
Viewer appreciation for the hat.
Rick Harper on the hat.
Yeah.
And on the stickers.
No, there were no stickers.
On the Maglite. On the poster.
Is Mike Sarkis.
Imagine if this were real television and like a few 100,000, maybe 1 million people were watching me right now.
Bill Harper got the hat. Rick Harper gets the Maglite.
Okay.
Okay?
Yes.
You got it now?
No. Do you have it now is the question.
I got it. I'm good.
All right. Ben's Vintage Mini Bike Podcast. Be sure to visit them on Sunday nights. Get a great little podcast. And you know what, Ben? I wish you would tell me more about the podcast when they're on. Get a little more of, how can I say it? Get people to know when your show is on. I catch it because I'm looking for it. I mean, I advertise, or not advertise, but I put it all over Facebook, all over websites, every place I can that Vintage Motocross Q&A is on at 6 o'clock on Wednesdays. And we get a decent crowd. We get a lot of people sharing the show. You, on the other hand, are a little bit more conservative, and you got a great show. Everybody loves the mini bike scene. Let us know when that is all happening, all right? I also mentioned a little bit earlier that the International Motocross Museum now has a YouTube channel, so be sure to catch that. This Week in Motorsports History is brought to you by Racer X. Be sure to visit them online or go out there and order a magazine. Have it mailed to your house. Imagine that. 81 years ago today, a star was born. Happy birthday to 5-time world champion Roger DeCoster. 81 laps around the sun. Can any of you remember a time you opened up a magazine and didn't see Roger DeCoster? I can't. All right. It just seems like, I don't know. Music always had Paul McCartney, and motocross always had Roger DeCoster. Anyway, 1989, on August 27th, on this very day, Trampus Parker, barely known at the start of the season, clinched the 1989 FIM 125cc Motocross World Championship with a runner-up finish in the first moto at the series-ending French 125 Grand Prix. Parker, a journeyman pro from Louisiana, had picked up a ride with Italy's Parioli-based KTM team and shocked everyone by sweeping both motos of the season opener in Italy. From there, he would battle back and forth with Chesterfield Suzuki rider Alejandro Puzar, as well as fellow American KTM riders Mike Healy and Bobby Moore. In winning, Parker became America's first 125 world champion. He was a 250 champion too. And he was going for a 500 at one point as well. Trampus Parker. All right, let's get down to the announcements, and then we will wrap up Vintage Motocross Q&A for this week. It's coming up September 14th. Vintage Motocross, Vintage Trials. That happens. Mike Allen's got a trial school going on September 12th too. That's at Rattlers Run Farm. Be sure to visit them online, and you can see all the action and when it's going to happen if you go to arma.org. All right, there's a gate fee of $10. Kids under 12 ride free. There's camping the night before. Whole lot going up down there at Rattlers Run. Zor Motocross Park, if you can't make Rattlers, September 27th and 28th. That's presented by Pioneer Motocross. $5,100 plus guaranteed purse. Wow. 125cc two-stroke air-cooled, 200cc four-stroke. They got a drum brake class. They got a little bit of everything going on there up there at Zor. All right. Oh, what else we got happening here? I got to start resting up for this event, October 18th. It's the big, big, big one. Northern California Motocross Reunion. Will you look at the people that are going to be at this event? David Bailey, Roger DeCoster, Bob and Jeff Fox, Brock Glover, Billy Grassi, Brad Lackey, Tom Rock, Pat Richter, Daryl Schultz, Steve Simon, Dana Waxman, Larry Wosick. I am your host, and it has been confirmed that Jeff Ward and Ricky Johnson will be there. Now, look, all these guys seldom get together all in one place like this, but it is for the Road to Recovery. It is a charity event. You should go and check it out at Road to Recovery, and I'll tell you why. You can get a chance to golf with these guys, ride mountain bikes, and there's a whole lot of other cool stuff going on. You'll be right alongside each and every one of them, okay? If you can't make it to that on October 18th, just a couple of days later, you're over there on the East Coast, George Ackerman. He's got a great event going on October 25th that happens from 10 to 4. That's on County Line Church Road in Ruther Glen, Virginia. George has got the Moto Barn. He's got the mini Moto Barn. He's got Barry Higgins, Steve Wise, Warren Reed, free food, lots of fun for all of his friends. George Ackerman with an open house, an absolutely fantastic time. And here's one we can't start announcing too early. November 1st, barbecue and fundraiser that happens on Saturday, November 1st. The rain date is November 8th. That is fun for the whole family. Crowder Creek ARP Church. All right. This is a car show, truck show, motorcycles. They even got some trucks that happens at 207 Crowder Creek Church Road in Gastonia, North Carolina. That happens from 10 to 2. And if you get down there, you can get Al Roof's autograph. All right. Al Roof, a great guy. Once again, I want to thank all of our sponsors at Vintage Motocross Q&A, including Racer X, the International Motocross Museum, Motion Pro, Bultaco East, Arma's coming up, Preston Petty Products, Full Circle Racing, and Amsoil. That wraps it up for this week's episode of Vintage Motocross Q&A. Gino, come on, buddy. There you go. See, you jump like, look at that. When you get a grooming, you're a whole new guy. Huh? Who do you love? You love Rocco or you love me? You don't love me? No, you love that camera. I think you're a big ham and you love the mush. All right, that's it for Vintage Motocross Q&A this week. Don't forget to keep sharing the show. Support our sponsors, International Motocross Museum. When in this video, the International Motocross Museum, where it says we're at the gate, Kerry Good's been bringing bikes over there, and we have partially occupied that building. A lot of cool stuff going on, and you're going to be hearing about it in the very, very near future. The floor plan is done. Pricing is on the floor plan. There have been communications with some of the OEMs, and a lot is happening to make the International Motocross Museum a reality. All right? Once again, that wraps it up for Vintage Motocross Q&A. We will see you next time. Thanks, Suze.
Okay.